Unspoken Issues.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. We're coming back at you. Oh my goodness, we got a new poll that went up, and you, our Facebook pals of the Unspoken Decade, right there on Facebook, you voted for the episode and the issue, the comic book, the 1990s comic book. Let's see how many more adjectives I can throw in front of it. You voted for the 1990s comic that we're going to be discussing tonight. This one right here, we pit ourselves against each other. I chose one, and Chris chose one. All right, so I'm going to tell you what my choice was, and I'll have Chris tell you his choice. So my choice in this poll happened to be a little, it was an unknown comic to me. Other people may have heard of it. Chris, I know, definitely said he had seen issues laying around in dollar bins. But my choice was Rock and Roll Comics number 40, and that was the focus on the rap group NWA. I will not say what that stands for, but I can tell you it does not stand for nice, white, and accessible. That was the inside of that cover, by the way. And they also featured, I guess they kind of focused on Ice Cube as well, and his departure from that rap group. And then, Chris, you came in with a Valiant comic. So mine was Rock and Roll Comics number 40. What was yours?
Shadowman number 19. When you first sent me the message asking, like, come up with a band-themed, rock band or musical themed comic, I was like, the first thing I thought of was those Rock and Roll Comics.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I don't know if I can even get one of those. But then I was like, well, there are probably other angles. Like, there was a Valiant comic that had Aerosmith on the cover. I remember seeing, like, because I would see it all the time and kind of laugh at it or whatever. Like, why the hell is Aerosmith in this comic? So, yeah, I suggested that, and you're like, yeah, let's go with that.
Heck yeah. I mean, all I wanted was to do something that had comics and actual bands together. I went with the autobiographical approach. You went with the completely fictional approach. That's perfectly fine. Well, okay. So the results, ladies and gentlemen, we had 28 votes from what I can see. The final tally was Rock and Roll Comics number 40 got 10 votes, while Shadowman nearly doubled that. Shadowman number 19 had 18 votes. Okay, so yeah, tonight we're going to be talking Shadowman number 19, Aerosmith. You said you saw this is sitting on the shelves, and you're like, Aerosmith? So what was your thoughts?
Well, I worked in a local comic shop off and on, for almost over a decade now, I guess. It's a comic shop that's been around since the late 80s, so their back stock is insane, and I mean, just boxes and boxes of Valiant comics. And they'll show up in dollar bins, and then they've got runs of them, in the back. So I would come across old Valiant comics all the time, and there was more than one occasion where I would see this issue pop up, and I would just like, it just seems so ludicrous to me that there was a Shadowman comic that had Aerosmith in it. Okay. And I was surprised when I read it at A, how good it was.
Oh.
And B, that like Aerosmith doesn't just like pop in for a couple panels. Like, Steven Tyler is vital to this issue. Like, it's all about him, which I just assumed, Aerosmith was maybe either the writer was a big fan of theirs, or they liked comics, and so Valiant was like, well, let's throw them in one of the books if they're down for it. But I figured it would be just a 1 or 2 page thing where, Shadowman goes to an Aerosmith concert and a terrorist attacks or something. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the case. It was a Aerosmith heavy issue.
Yes, it was. And I mean, the issue actually mattered. I mean, it
right.
A lot of times
things in Shadowman's life happen in this issue.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times when you have these guest stars, it's just like, oh, okay, well, this issue's not going to mean anything. We're not going to feel any repercussions or any long-lasting effects from Aerosmith dabbling in the Shadowman's universe here. Well, when I go through the story, it's definitely clear that this whole story matters in his continuity. So, okay, well, let's take, I'm going to give the stats of the issue here real quick. Like I said, Shadowman number 19, Valiant Comics coming at you. Cover date's November of 1993. On sale date has it listed, Mike's Amazing World of Comics has it listed at August 10th, 1993. So our story title is called Dark Desires. And our writer / penciler is Bob Hall, inker John Dixon, letterer Bethan Needs, and colorist Mike Cavallaro. So, Bob Hall, not on my radar.
Yeah, same here.
How about you? Okay, all right. So I don't know much about Bob Hall. Let's just take a real quick look to see if this was his baby, like it was.
Well, while you're looking that up, I should also say, like, Shadowman featuring Aerosmith, whatever, that it's not just that I would see it in dollar bins and stuff and at the comic shop. Like, I remember the ads for this when it came out, whenever I thought Valiant was lame.
Oh, yeah.
This was just another example of, like, oh, that's dumb, another dumb Valiant comic or whatever. I don't really think that way anymore. I really like the new Valiant stuff since they've done their 2012 relaunch. A lot of those books are really good, and I want to go back and read a lot of this other Valiant stuff. So, but at the time, Valiant was like the anti-Image, basically, and I didn't care about it.
Well, get this. Okay, so I'm on Bob Hall's Wikipedia, okay, and there is a neat little, let's just say factoid that kind of directly ties into what's happening here, okay? And let's see if you can figure it out. Hall began working in the comics industry in 1974 and drew horror stories for Charlton Comics. He soon moved to Marvel Comics and drew the Champions and Supervillain Team-Up. Hall and writer Chris Claremont collaborated on Marvel Team-Up number 74, October 78, which featured Spider-Man meeting the cast of NBC's Saturday Night Live.
Nice. The not ready for primetime players.
Hall briefly worked as an editor for Marvel from 1978 to 1979 under Jim Shooter. Hall later joined Shooter as a writer and penciler at Valiant Comics. So there we go. Yeah. He's obviously had
Not
the
his
whole
first rodeo.
That's right, celebrity meeting a superhero thing before. So very cool. All right. Well, we're not getting into the comic yet, okay? Because we got a couple things we need to talk about. First, we're going to talk about your experience with Shadowman. You saw the ads. I mean, you weren't reading Shadowman at the time? You weren't picking this up? Okay. All right. This was one of those titles that I have probably, like, if you were to look at my collection, issue 7, issue 11. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just something where I was picking up.
Kind of picked them up over the years.
Yeah, that cover looks cool. It's $1. I'm grabbing it. I had no desire to read or understand what was going on here. I don't even remember I did not remember Shadowman's actual name. I did not remember, his name is Jack Boniface, by the way, or Boniface. I don't know how you're going to pronounce that. We'll go with Boniface. But anyway, I didn't know his actual name. I didn't know his history. I knew Master Dark looked like the dude on the cover of the Meshuggah album. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'll post that later. Yeah, really long head. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I knew who Master Dark was because, if anything, most likely my direct memory or probably first real interaction becoming like somebody who was interested in Valiant characters was Deathmate. Yeah. So, Deathmate was throwing all our Image heroes and Valiant heroes into one big crossover. So I'm pretty sure Shadowman was in there at some point, but I know Master Dark I'm pretty certain was part of one of the stories as well. But either way, I knew who Master Dark was, but I wasn't collecting Shadowman to where I was just like, oh yeah, I know his whole history and I'm a big fan. No, not happening. That was one of the least, if there was a title that I was interested in at all, was probably Bloodshot coming from Valiant. Archer and Armstrong, I know me and you talked a little bit about that in Magnus Robot Fighter.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in those. I definitely have some of the Solar Man of the Atom issues, but Shadowman's run didn't have it. I wasn't didn't have a whole lot.
My only interest in Valiant at this time was probably Ninjak and maybe Bloodshot.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's our experience.
It was really more of like Valiant trying to do the Image style stuff, it seemed like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those gritty heroes, once again, I don't know. It's been a while since I've read any Bloodshot. I remember reading Eternal Warrior. I was reading a good bit of that. I had a bunch of those issues, like a run from, I want to say, maybe the 5 or 6 forward. But, well, we gotta discuss one more thing we're familiar with here in 1993, and that's Aerosmith. Are you listening to Aerosmith in 1993? Hold on, as if you couldn't tell. They were promoting an album. So Get a Grip is the 11th studio album by American rock band Aerosmith, released on April 20th, 1993. So are you ready for the songs? Singles. I'll read the singles to you. You tell me if you've listened to them. And it looks like they have them, they have them in chronological order. So the first single from Get a Grip, Living on the Edge. You remember that one?
Sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that one.
I'm not going to sing it to you, but okay. Then we have number 2, proudly displayed on Steven Tyler's shirt throughout this whole issue, Eat the Rich. Number 3 featured a music video. It was Alicia Silverstone's first
thing she did, pretty much.
Yeah, which was Crying. Crying when I left you. All right, now I'm dying just to get you. Number 4, Amazing. So I want to make sure I'm right here. Was Crying was the one with Alicia Silverstone, right?
I think so.
And then Amazing, I want to say Amazing was too. I gotta know. Music video. The video for the song was the second appearance of Alicia Silverstone in the band videos.
I don't think I realized that she's
been in 2. Yeah, she's in Crying, and then it says Crying was the first of 3 successive appearances by Alicia Silverstone in the band's videos. Oh, what's the next one then? Okay.
She was probably not. I think she was probably pretty young at that time.
Lineup came out in November of 1993. That was the 5th single, and then we have Shut Up and Dance. I can't recall that one at all. That was the 6th single, and then May 3rd of 1994. This was the other one that she was in. I'm fairly certain. Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have.
I recognize 3 of those singles,
and they're all Alicia Silverstone videos.
Pretty much,
probably.
Yeah.
She was hot.
Hey, I was 13 when that album came out.
I don't blame you, sir. Crying, Amazing, and Crazy. Yep. All right. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big Aerosmith fan, really.
I had this album, and I think that this
one with the cow udder with the hoop ring in it?
You got it, buddy. You got it. Not a fan. Come on. I think this is like one of the first CDs I ever bought, dude.
Yeah.
It may
this is probably their peak of their popularity. This, or I mean, maybe Armageddon. As far as their popularity, I would say this is probably about when they were at their peak.
This was 1993. Prior to this, in regards to albums, it was Pump, came out in 1989, which probably, let's just take a look. Did that have no, that had Love in an Elevator, which is, I know that one. I know Janie's Got a Gun. I know, man, I know a lot of Aerosmith songs, dude.
Hey, they've been around.
Fine, Fine. I know that one. Of course, when they tag teamed with Run DMC. And, what was that one? That was Walk This Way. I mean, come on. All right, we got to talk comics. Damn it. It happened on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Let's break down the story here. When Jack happens to be hanging out with some old friends who just happen to be members of Aerosmith, Master Dark puts into play a plan to strike. Influencing a young obsessed fan by the name of Moondance and using his mastery over voodoo, Master Dark is able to take control of the band's frontman, Steven Tyler. And during the set of their performance, Moondance makes Tyler run off stage like the Energizer Bunny. I mean, he keeps going and going and going. That's another 90s reference, I think. Maybe even 80s. Knowing this is the work of his nemesis, Jack puts on the mask to become Shadowman. He leaps into action, first attempting to stop Steven, but gets a boot to the face for his efforts. As Tyler returns to the stage, well after everyone has left, Moondance is there. Approaching the stage, Moondance grabs Tyler by the throat and begins to squeeze. As Shadowman faces off with a zombie, Tyler faces death, but is able to find that Moondance is controlling him via a voodoo doll that is hanging around his neck. Steven Tyler, is able to get a grip and rips the doll. Throwing it and regaining control of himself to defeat Moondance. Offstage, Master Dark awaits with the doll when Shadowman arrives and threatens to kill Steven Tyler unless Shadowman agrees to do something for him. What that is, we do not know. Shadowman relents and agrees. Master Dark burns the voodoo doll, releasing its hold on Tyler. The band is back on stage the next night, leaving Shadowman wondering just what it will be that he owes his mortal enemy. Yeah, like I was saying, dude, he now is like in debt to his evil nemesis. What do you think, man? I mean, you said you were like, this is actually pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, it was. Surprisingly good. I talked about how I like the new Valiant books and whatnot. Shadowman is one of the weaker of the newer line. And I full disclosure, I haven't read any of the new Valiant stuff since like 2017.
Okay.
For different reasons, mostly that I just haven't had time to keep up with them. But yeah, out of that crop of first few years of the new Valiant stuff, I didn't really like the Shadowman stuff that much, so I kind of was just expecting I wouldn't like this either. But yeah, it's pretty solid. The Bob Hall does the pencils as well as writes.
Yeah,
he does a great job with Steven Tyler and his giant mouth,
which is like
it looks like Steven Tyler. But yeah, like they incorporate the band into a story in a way that I wouldn't have thought would have worked, but it does. It works. It works really well. And I don't know much about this version of Jack Boniface, but apparently he's a saxophone player, and he's really friendly with Steven Tyler and the other Aerosmith guys, which is convenient for this story. But yeah, there are Master Dark is sort of like a voodoo sorcerer, I guess, and so there's some like zombies in there that he's using to control as like foot soldiers to protect. What was his name again? Moondance, the crazed fan. I also like that he just tries to sing and nothing comes out of his mouth in the early parts of the issue, and he's kind of air guitaring it. But yeah, it's a fun comic. A friend of mine, he always will be watching a movie that's set like in the Victorian London era stuff, or a TV show or whatever, and he's always just like grossed out by it. And I know what he means. It seems gross, like there's soot everywhere, it's damp, everything seems gross. Like I would never want to live in that era. I get the same reaction with New Orleans.
Ooh.
I've never been there, but if I see a movie that's set there, or if I'm reading a comic like this set there, I guess it's just the swamplands and stuff. Like it just seems really gross.
It's humid,
wet, and hot. I do not ever want to go there. It always leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But despite that, this was still a pretty good comic.
Yeah. One of my notes was that Steven Tyler can hold his own.
Yeah.
He isn't like shunned away or portrayed in a way that he is just this weak celebrity. He actually he freaking kicks.
Yeah, he gives him a boot to the face.
Shadowman right in the face, and then at the end of it isn't Shadowman that's really rescuing him at all. I mean, I guess you could say that he's the one that has to relent and kind of say, okay, if you will do that, if you save him, please, I'll help you.
Right.
So his actions are the ones that kind of release Tyler. But it's not like Tyler is begging this guy for help at all. Tyler's going after Moondance. He's fighting them there, and he's the one that figures out that it's a voodoo doll. So Steven Tyler's actually portrayed pretty good here. And it's it's an interesting story just to be able to see. Immediately the first thing I thought of, when I did the whole suggestion for what this was going to be, was the Kiss comics. The Kiss comics, and I didn't want to do those. I'm not a Kiss fan, and I don't think I would enjoy reading about their exploits as whatever the hell they want to try and be in comic books.
Yeah.
So
that or Guarmageddon. So.
Oh boy, Guar. So yeah, I mean, I think as far as celebrity appearances in a 90s comic book, I know there's probably 1,000 other ones out there, maybe even that are focused on celebrities either being part of the comic. There's nothing in here that Steven Tyler does, other than the fact that he's controlled by a voodoo doll, that seems far-fetched. I mean, he actually, it's not like he gets superpowers. He just starts running, and he fights like a man. So it's not that far off from what
a good account of himself.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I had. This is the second time.
Also, he dies.
He does. He does die.
He briefly dies before Shadowman saves him, and heaven for him is just women.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
And it's like, isn't that pretty much already what you got going on on Earth, Steve?
Not going to be much of a transition. Eat the rich. Eat the rich.
I really like Moon. Well, remind me again.
Moondance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call him Moon Knight. I'll call him Moondog. Trust me, I had to train myself and write it down 5 times.
Whenever Steven Tyler catches up to him and he's got the voodoo doll around his neck, like he's so obsessed. He's also drawn a big fake mouth, Joker style, to look even more like Steven Tyler.
Did not. I couldn't believe that they actually did that, to be honest. I was like, okay, the dude wants to be Steven Tyler, but then they, and I understand it's not like Steven Tyler does not know that he has big lips,
Right.
and that that's he's made jokes about it himself.
Yeah.
And I think it even comes up in his songs. I think on Get a Grip, I think he may have made a mention. I can't recall, but anyway, it's hilarious that they would do that, and I was like, well, you didn't have to go that far. But they did. Yeah, I mean, all the bands here, too. I mean, Joe Perry's there, and
right.
The rest of the guys. I don't know who their names are, but they're there.
There's, I'm not super familiar with Shadowman, especially this era of Shadowman, but it appears as when he puts on the mask that Shadowman is a different persona than Jack Boniface.
Well, let's find out. Because I think you're right.
The inner monologue indicates that, it seems.
I didn't catch that. I didn't catch a difference, but you might. I mean, it might have been something I just didn't. I should have been paying a little bit more attention.
Well, it's just. I mean, it's kind of vague, but that's the impression I got.
Well, okay. See, I started on this wiki when I was looking at it a while back, and whoever wrote this decided that they were just going to write his whole history. Just tell me about the mask. That's all I want to do is learn about the mask. Okay, this is a neat little portion of the Wikipedia. In 1999, Acclaim Entertainment was approached by rapper/actor Ice Cube with a pitch to make a feature film on Shadowman. Acclaim declined this offer as they were focused on the success of the video game franchise. Wah, wah.
They've got that video game next door. I saw it today on Instagram.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I gave it crap, and then I saw when I posted a picture of it, people were like, "Oh, it's a decent game." I'm like, I don't remember hearing good reviews, but again, I could be wrong. I want to see about his powers, because the whole mask thing that you're talking about is, I'm pretty certain, part of what's happened here, but of course I cannot find. Just show me his powers. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to see. I cannot find Stalin verse. What the fuck is this? In the dark, twisted timeline of the Stalin verse, Jack lived in New Orleans prior to the invasion of Russian forces. This is the newer Shadowman. Interesting.
Yeah, that's part of a new one. I haven't read that, but that's part of a new crossover, like alternate universe in the new Valiant stuff.
Here we go. Jack Boniface was a jazz player who became empowered by a mysterious organization, the Coven, with the dark spelled D-A-R-Q-U-E. The dark power to fend, that's French, as if we're not in New Orleans. Power to fend off the sinister Master Dark. When the night falls, he becomes the Shadow Man, gaining super strength, fearlessness, and is driven to help others. Boniface eventually sacrifices his life. Oh, spoilers!
No.
Don't be saying stuff like that. They don't mention the mask, though. They just say at night. Maybe he has to have the mask on.
I guess I was wrong.
Hell, I don't know. I'm looking on Comic Vine. Either way, you pick that up out of the comic book. I think that's a valid observation. So eat the rich is what I have to say. That's the only thing that they're good for.
I would rather just steal from the rich.
However you want to do it. The guillotines are ready. Steven Tyler's there. He's got the lever. I mean, the art style was pretty decent. You want to pick a favorite panel?
I'm going to go with page 2.
Okay.
Which is a full page, and we get Steven Tyler's gaping maw about to eat that microphone.
Eat the rich. How about I eat everything else inside?
Hey, if anybody can do it.
We apologize, Aerosmith fans. We really, really do. One thing about when you go from Wildcats number 3.
I mean, the art style is drastically different.
It's different. It's not a downgrade. Okay, I'm not going to say that because
I'll say it. It's a downgrade, but it's not a terrible. It's not like this is bad.
No,
it's telling a different type of story.
Yeah, it's not as dynamic. It's clearly everything. I was able to follow the story. I wasn't confused. Everything was fine. I'm going to go with. I'll go with. Well, it's covered with a lot of text, but I like Shadow Man hanging out on top of like marquees and shit and jumping down and in the rain. All right, yeah, okay. I don't know. You know what? I'm going with Moondance fake fucking Steven Tyler.
The revelation of him and his gear.
Yep. Going with it. All right, here we go. We're heading into plugs. Chris Armstrong, we're on. Oh, wait a second. You go to the unspokendecade.com. I did do a quick search for Shadowman. Didn't pull up anything. But I tell you what, you go to the unspokendecade.com, you type in Valiant, and there is a very recent article from our good buddy Dean Compton. It's titled Opposites Attract. This was his contribution to the Superblog team-up. Archer and Armstrong. So if you're a Valiant Comics fan, you should definitely check that out. Of course, there's about 4 pages of articles that are apparently related to Valiant Comics. I mean, we have the Ultraverse Ragnarok. That was written by Dean. We got its title speaks for itself. That was by Emily. We talked about that one already. So, all right, check out the unspokendecade.com. All right, Chris Armstrong, please. Plugs.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at BrodyMan34. I contribute to the Unspoken Decade from time to time. Definitely, you should check out the Unspoken Decade Facebook page and keep an eye out for the polls where you can vote on what comics we're going to be covering in the future.
All right, eat the rich. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over. If you hadn't found out yet, ladies and gentlemen, Aerosmith has released a new album in 1993. All right. So, yeah, I'm Jesse Starcher. You can follow me on Twitter at Stiznarkey. Me and Chris Armstrong have been doing the Unspoken Issues for the past few weeks. Go into the archive, the Radulich and Broadcasting Network archive, and you can find our issue 0 all the way up to whatever issue this is going to be, whatever episode this is going to be. Anyway, shout out to the Radulich and Broadcasting Network for hosting the show. And, hey, if you're interested in more comic book discussion, we do a comic book podcast on there as well, titled Source Material. Me and Chris recently covered 4 epic volumes of Onslaught. So there's some 90s comics goodness as well. But in the meantime, make sure to check out the unspokendecade.com and watch the Facebook page, Unspoken Decade Facebook page, to see any new polls that show up there and vote. We're here to serve you. That's right. You vote and we will discuss whatever comic is on the winner's side of things. Other than that, that is Chris Armstrong. I'm Jesse Starcher. We will catch you on the flip side. Have a good one. Eat the rich. Get a grip. Have a good one. Crying. It's amazing.